The wind howled through the glen, carrying a mournful cry. It was the banshee, harbinger of death. Old Mary shivered, drawing her shawl tighter. The banshee's cry meant a soul was departing, likely taken by the fairies. They were drawn to those close to death, their presence a chilling whisper on the wind. Just beyond the village, shrouded in mist and shadow, lay the fairy fort. Locals knew to avoid it, especially at night. To disturb the fairies was to invite their wrath, a wrath swift and unforgiving. Mary remembered the stories told around the fire. Tales of farmers who dared to plough too close to the fort only to suffer terrible misfortunes. Crops would wither, livestock would fall ill, and accidents would befall those who dared defy the unseen. These weren't mere superstitions, they were warnings passed down through generations. The fairies were real, and their power was not to be underestimated. Scattered across the Emerald Isle, hidden beneath rolling hills and within ancient forests, lie the fairy forts. These circular mounds of earth, often ringed by hawthorn trees, are more than just remnants of a forgotten past. They are portals to the other world, the realm of the fairies. Some believe them to be ancient burial grounds, places where the veil between worlds is thin. Others whisper of them as gateways to the fairy realm, where time flows differently and magic reigns supreme. These forts, often marked by a single gnarled hawthorn tree growing from their center, were places of power. To the untrained eye, they might appear as simple ruins swallowed by nature. But to those who knew where to look, they were places of mystery and magic. The very air around them hummed with an unseen energy, a reminder of the ancient forces that still held sway. The hawthorn, with its thorny branches and fragrant blossoms, holds a special place in Irish folklore. Known as the fairy tree, it stands guard over the entrance to the otherworld. To harm a hawthorn, especially one growing on a fairy fort, was considered taboo. It was an invitation to disaster, a transgression against the natural order. Stories abound of those who dared to cut down a hawthorn tree, only to be met with terrible misfortune. Illness, accidents, and even death were said to follow those who disrespected the fairy tree. Even today, many people in Ireland will go to great lengths to avoid disturbing a hawthorn, especially one associated with a fairy fort. For generations, the Irish people have lived in an uneasy truce with the fairy folk. While not inherently evil, the fairies were known for their capricious nature and their penchant for mischief. To show them disrespect was to invite their wrath, but to show them respect could bring blessings. This delicate balance was maintained through a mixture of caution and awe. Farmers would leave the first fruits of their harvest near fairy forts as offerings. Travelers would walk wide around fairy paths, taking care not to disturb the fairy folk. Children were taught from a young age to never pick flowers or disturb the earth near a fairy fort. These customs, passed down through generations, were more than just superstition. They were a way of life, a recognition of the unseen forces that shaped their world. Section 5. When curiosity tempted fate, stories of disrespect and misfortune. Despite the warnings, there were always those who, driven by curiosity or greed, dared to tempt fate. One such tale tells of a farmer who, coveting the fertile land around a fairy fort, decided to plough it. Despite the pleas of his neighbors, he yoked his oxen and began to plough. As the sun began to set, he unearthed a silver coin, gleaming in the fading light. Overjoyed, he continued to plough, eager for more treasure. But his greed was his undoing. That night, a terrible storm raged, and the next morning the farmer was found dead in his field, his body twisted and broken. Another story tells of a group of young people who, emboldened by drink, decided to hold a party on a fairy fort. They danced and sang until the early hours, their laughter echoing through the night, but their revelry was short-lived. As the sun rose, they found themselves lost and disoriented, unable to find their way home. They wandered for days, their clothes torn and their bodies weary, until they finally stumbled upon a village where they recounted their tale with shame and regret. Section 6. Echoes of the Otherworld. Fairies in Irish culture. The fairies are more than just mythical creatures in Irish culture. They are an integral part of the fabric of Irish society. From the music and dance to the literature and art, the fairies have left an indelible mark on the Irish psyche. They are the embodiment of the magic and mystery that permeates the Irish landscape, a constant reminder of the unseen forces that shape our world. In Irish folklore, fairies are often depicted as mischievous and unpredictable, capable of both great kindness and terrible cruelty. They are the guardians of nature, the protectors of the land and its creatures. To earn their favor was to invite good fortune, but to incur their wrath was to suffer their vengeance. This belief in the power of the fairies is still prevalent in many parts of rural Ireland, where people continue to respect the old ways. Section 7. Modern encounters whispers of magic in a modern world. While the world has modernized, the belief in fairies has not vanished. Even today there are those who claim to have encountered these ethereal beings. Stories circulate of strange lights seen near fairy forts, of objects disappearing and reappearing without explanation, and of encounters with strange, otherworldly creatures. Some dismiss these accounts as mere superstition or overactive imaginations. But for those who have experienced these strange occurrences firsthand, there's no doubt that something magical is afoot. They believe that the fairies are still out there, watching from the shadows, reminding us that there is more to this world than meets the eye. Section 8. The enduring legacy why fairy beliefs persist. In our modern world, dominated by technology and reason, it is perhaps surprising that belief in fairies persists. But there is something about these ancient beliefs that continues to resonate with the human spirit. Perhaps it is the allure of the unknown, the possibility that there are forces beyond our understanding. Or perhaps it is the comfort of knowing that we are not alone in this vast and often chaotic world. Whatever the reason, the belief in fairies serves as a reminder that there is magic to be found in the everyday, if only we know where to look. It reminds us to respect the natural world and to tread lightly upon the earth. And it reminds us that there are still mysteries in this world that science cannot explain. Section 9. A realm beyond our own. The stories of fairies and their forts are more than just folklore. They are a window into the soul of Ireland. They speak of a deep connection to the land, a respect for the unseen forces that shape our world, and a belief in the magic that exists just beyond our perception. So, the next time you find yourself wandering the Emerald Isle, take a moment to listen to the whispers of the wind. You might just hear the echoes of the other world calling you to step into a realm beyond your wildest dreams.